This is Amy Poehler. My new movie, Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, is coming to theaters June 14th, and it's making me feel joy and sadness and anger, definitely some disgust, Rose, and I think a little fear. Really? But I'm also feeling these new emotions like anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui.
It's what you call the boredom.
Okay, that one was weird. It's gonna be the feel everything movie of the summer. Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Hey everybody, we're taking a week off as we approach the unofficial start of summer, but we are going to be releasing a recent After Dark for the public this week, so you can get a taste of the benefits we offer to our Patreon and Apple Podcast subscribers, and so we don't leave you hanging over our break. Anything you two want to add really quick? I didn't script anything out.
No, but whatever we release is going to be great.
We're all a little bit nervous because we don't actually remember exact details about what we revealed in this installment. So, have fun.
Yeah, we could get called out for talking shit that we don't remember talking by people we know IRL who listen.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
What are we going to do? Listen back to it in advance? We don't have time for that.
Nobody has time for that.
I'd rather just get in trouble with a friend than spend time listening.
Right. And then just awkwardly avoid talking about it again.
And then you're just like, oh no, I wasn't talking about you.
Yeah, right.
I was talking about the other person who has your same name.
Yeah, that should be my new plan. Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's a good one.
In the words of Hoobastank, the reason is you. You are the reason why we are able to podcast after all this time. So we would really appreciate your financial support at patreon.com/millennial. Or if you're an Apple Podcast user, you can tap into the show and sign up for Mega Millennial, which is the main show, ad-free with After Dark attached at the end. Many more benefits are available over on our Patreon, so check that out first. But we appreciate your financial support no matter how you support us. So with that said, we'll be back with a brand new episode next week, and enjoy this installment of After Dark.
All right, welcome to this week's installment of After Dark. As we teased in the main show, we're going to be doing a little bit of an AMA, an Ask Us Anything, but we specifically asked our patrons to ask us questions about the behind-the-scenes life at the pods, not just Millennial, not just MuggleCast, but any of the number of podcast ventures we've had over the years. And we got some really great questions. So thanks y'all for submitting them.
Yeah.
We can kick it off with a question from Tiara, who wants to know, how much would you say you've invested in your equipment over the years, not including Andrew's scammed investment? Of course.
Tiara is referring to when I got scammed on Upwork and I ended up wiring a scammer like $4,000. No, maybe not that much. Maybe like $2,500. That was really upsetting. I can't believe I fell for that like 4 years ago. Never wire money, folks. That's all I have to say to somebody you just met. But that's an interesting question.
I feel like you've spent probably the most money on equipment, Andrew.
But are we talking about like replacing equipment too? Because I'll just say, if you wanted to get started with our setup, so a good microphone, that could run you $100 to $150. Get a good camera if you don't have one already. That'll be another $100, $150. You already have headphones probably. You might need some padding for your room to dampen the echo. You might need a light. I think you could have a really good podcast home studio for $400 all in.
I agree.
Yeah.
And just have decent internet.
Yeah.
Like, don't skimp on your internet, but
Well, and actually to this point, like we use this tool right now called Riverside to record. It needs a better computer if you're going to be recording weekly.
Yeah.
For a guest, it's okay. But like we actually upgraded Pam's computer because we had bought her one a few years ago and it wasn't working well with Riverside, which was very disappointing. But I guess
the computer wasn't even that old. That's why it was disappointing. So
in fairness to Riverside and Apple, we didn't put a lot of RAM in that computer. I think it only had 8 gigs, which isn't a lot. So yeah, if you want to count a computer, obviously it's going to get a lot more expensive. But over the years, grand total for all the equipment we purchased, I'm sure it's probably not, for 19 years of podcasting, it's probably not as crazy as you think.
Well, also because at the beginning we were all funding our own stuff, right? And so I know I definitely went through a couple of headsets when we were using those to start off, but we were also using all free software and Skype, which was also free. So that kind of like offsets it, right?
Yeah.
And then upgrading to like actual microphones, I probably invested in like 2 Yetis or something like that. But like now the nice thing is that we're in a position to fully or partially fund our equipment when we need to because of the Patreon. So
yeah. And that's thanks to all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also I will say, if you're looking to get started, you should just start asking for equipment that you would like for your birthday and for Christmas. I did that a lot because like when you're an adult, you don't really know what to get, like to ask people to get you, but like being like, I want a ring light so that I can like try this new thing out. People are probably more likely to do that because they know that they're putting their money to good use for your future potentially. So
yeah. And ring lights, I mean, there are some of them out there that you can spend a lot of money on because they're really fancy, but I think we all use the same ones here and they're like $25 on Amazon.
And a lot of times they come with tripods, which is great because that's one less thing you have to buy.
Yeah, shout out Chloe. She's the one who pointed us in the direction of at least the particular ring light I'm using.
I might have to ask you again for that one because I don't like, I'm in a love-hate relationship with mine. I feel like it blows me out a lot, but
yeah, I can send it to you. I don't know if it's the same one, but I will say it's some of the cheaper ones. I mean, sometimes you do get what you pay for. I've had to replace my ring light twice so far because this one, it's not the fanciest one, but it also gets the job done and it does a good job of lighting. So I'm fine with it. But yeah, you definitely don't need to break the bank. I feel like I've talked to a few people over the years who've really wanted to start like a stream or a podcast, and they think that they have to drop hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars into equipment before they can even get started. And it's like, no, you don't need to do that. Literally just record it on your iPhone. Like if you have nothing else, start by recording it on your iPhone and work with that. Don't sink a lot of money into equipment when you haven't even gotten your feet wet. And of course, Tiara, we know that you are an experienced content creator, so that's probably more general advice to the public.
The mics on the phones are so good these days.
Yeah, they really are.
They've been good for a while. I mean, I used to record all my interviews on this. The app still exists. I think it's more expensive than it used to be. It's called HT app, but it's great and it works well in like noisy settings too. But even the voice notes app is pretty good nowadays. So
and Apple with the Macs, they're putting better and better microphones in the Macs now. They call them studio quality microphones, which you can take that with a grain of salt, but they are very good. So we're in a good place right now for homegrown podcasting, at least to get started and to dabble. And then you can start putting a couple $100 into really good microphones.
Luis asks, since y'all sometimes get personal on the topic of family and After Dark, how confident do you feel with the paywall? Do you ever worry a family member will sign up under a pseudonym and then listen to After Dark?
Luis, this is my chronic fear. I actually went out to lunch with somebody that, I think it was in Roll Call where we were talking about being dismissed by people we know in real life because we do podcasting. And the person specifically I was talking about, I went out to lunch with, and they again brought up the After Dark stuff because I guess they've been listening more frequently to the main show. And they were like, on one hand, I'm curious, but on the other hand, I don't actually want to pay for it because I feel like it's weird to pay your friends. And I'm like, okay, like, first of all, rude, but also
right,
please
bye.
don't listen because I definitely have talked shit about you before. So that's like the current one that's keeping me up at night, if I'm being honest. And yeah, I do kind of worry that one day people like that will sign up.
Thank you for your sacrifice, Pam. It is a thought that crosses my mind from time to time, in part because I'm definitely not above signing up for somebody else's Patreon under a pseudonym. I wonder if you can get away with that. Like I guess you can on Patreon. You can use your credit card with your real name, but then when you sign up, you can put in whatever name you want for your account because we see random usernames on ours because we can't see your credit card info, of course. I
guess we can see the email, so you would have to like make sure your email isn't your full name.
Oh,
right?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So you'd have to make a fake email address first, or you can use that. Apple has that email relay feature where you give companies a random email address so they don't have your actual email address. I see that on Patreon from time to time. So yeah, it's a thought that crosses our mind. But look, we know y'all like this content and we like talking about this stuff to get it off of our chests. And we know it's something that you are willing to pay for. So we're willing to roll the dice to some extent.
You know what stresses me out even more is when y'all bring up what we said in After Dark in the Facebook group, because I don't know.
So stop doing that.
Yeah, please stop doing that. Like that causes me more stress than thinking about somebody shelling out, $5-10 to listen to After Dark.
Should we? What if they bring it up in our Discord, which is patron?
That's
only.
fine
That's
because
okay.
that's
I think
Patreon
that's
only.
fine.
But the Facebook group feels way too exposed. And
Yeah.
sometimes I see things pop up there and I'm like, I wish you guys didn't post about that.
Aw,
on the
I love
Facebook
when
group.
I love when people post on sorry, but I love when people post on Facebook. I was listening to this and you guys were talking about that. I was like, oh, cool, some engagement.
Well, I do like it, but it's like on the other hand, it's like, oh no, not that bit. You know?
I understand.
Yeah, I get it. I will say, I think y'all know this. My dad used to be a patron. I don't think he is anymore. I feel like we checked this a few months back, Andrew, and we saw that he wasn't. And it's not like nothing happened. I think that he probably just got a new credit card and forgot to update his payment method. And I mean, to be honest, I definitely told my dad because he wanted to do it to support the show, right? Which I appreciated.
Yeah.
But I was pretty honest with him about being like, okay, we put stuff behind the paywall for a reason. So enjoy, but just understand that you need to proceed with caution because you may hear things you don't want to hear.
Right.
So I don't know how often he ever listened to After Dark. I don't think he's on there right now. I will say something that kind of threw me for a loop was my grandma started supporting us on MuggleCast. And what threw me for a loop was it was my week to do Bonjoros. And I went into the Bonjoro queue. There are these welcome videos that we record for MuggleCast patrons. And I saw my grandma's name in the queue. And I was like, what? Because I didn't even know that she knew we had a Patreon, but she's pretty tech savvy. So she found it and she signed up at the Slug Club level. So I recorded her a Bonjoro. And then I immediately, as soon as I was done, went over to the Millennial Patreon to be like, oh my God, please tell me she didn't sign up here too. Thankfully, she didn't. She's a Republican. So I don't think she would. But
imagine your grandma rolling up to the Slug Club hangout.
Oh, yeah.
That would actually be really cute.
It would be really cute. I I don't think she actually takes advantage of any of the benefits, although I do make sure that she gets the physical gifts, because usually we have people like fill out a contact form for us so that we can make sure we're sending things to people who actually want them. And she like missed it last time. So I texted Andrew and was like, can you please send the stuff to my grandma?
Oh, that's so cute.
I'm pissed my family doesn't support me on either of the Patreons. I would do that for them, I think. They're so used to me doing this crap, it doesn't even faze them anymore.
Actually shocked your mom doesn't, because she's on it.
Yeah.
She engages with our socials all the time.
Yeah, she's leeching.
She said, I gave birth to you. That's payment enough.
Oh, I guess so. I sure see the nephews getting spoiled every damn day at Dunkin' Donuts and all kinds of other places. Spoil me once a month with a $5 pledge.
Hey, Mom, that Dunkin', miss it for a day. And that's your Patreon pledge for the month.
Yeah, cut back on all the spoiling on the nephews, and then you can have some money to come and visit me. How about that?
Maybe, maybe she wants grandchildren from you. Andrea, did you ever think about that?
Why? So she can spend more money spoiling nephews and not me? Well, you know what? If I want them to come visit me, I would have kids. And then maybe my dad would visit me, and my mom would visit like twice a year instead of once a year or every other year. A few weeks ago, she said to me, oh, yeah, I was out about this time last year. I was like, no, you weren't. It's been over 2 years since you have visited me now. So
yeah, you keep those records.
Yeah. Yeah. I've purchased a new car since my mom has been out here. We have a whole different view of Vegas since we've been out there. She's been out here. And by that, I mean, like, we have explored this food scene a ton now, explored a lot of new things to do. Like, it's a whole different Vegas to me, not to mention the whole friend angle. So can you tell this has been bothering me lately?
Yeah.
Pat's mom and dad visited last weekend, by the way.
Get it all out, baby.
Oh, that's right. It seems like y'all had fun.
Yeah, isn't that nice? I finally had one of my fathers visit me out west. 13 years.
Oh.
I saw Bruce in LA over the weekend. So this was a weekend of seeing Pat's dad and seeing my music dad in one weekend, right? So I texted my mom, she said, how was Pat's parents visiting? And I said, it was great. Glad they came. And then I said, and now I'm at Bruce in LA, a weekend of hanging with my dads out west. She ha-ha'd the text. My dad's, not my real one.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
They're the dads that stepped up, right? What is that? His son has stepped down. He's a dad who stepped up.
Yeah, the dads who, well, don't disappoint me. But anyway.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Well, we're going to pivot and talk a little bit about the Potterverse. So Morgan was wondering, I was always curious about the behind-the-scenes dynamics between Pottercast and Mugglecast. How was that for you all?
Do you want to answer that first, Laura?
Andrew, your face.
Oh, no, I was yawning. What did you see?
Oh, no, it looked like you were grimacing.
Oh, no, I was just yawning. Sorry. It wasn't at this question.
So, I mean, I'm going to tell it from my perspective. Andrew, you can tell it from your perspective. I felt like, especially in the early days, this dynamic was incredibly dramatic for like no reason. Does that square with you?
Yes, I think so. I look back at some of the old emails now because all of our arguments were happening via email. We didn't communicate over AIM. We didn't have, Slack or even social media. And it's just like, this is also stupid. It's stupid crap. Like one example would be, and Justin said, tell us about behind the scenes early MuggleCast story you guys haven't told. So this isn't explicitly MuggleCast, but it was MuggleNet versus Leaky. We beat Leaky, and it wasn't even a race. We didn't know they were doing this. We launched our own social network called Muggle Space, right? And Leaky was devastated that we beat them to rolling out our own social media network. And we were using this tool where you could create your own MySpace for whatever community you wanted. And I just remember Leaky was devastated by this. And they were also devastated by another thing. Either we beat them to or we released one after them and they thought it would negatively impact theirs. We did like I think it was like a merchandise store or like an affiliate store where we'd get all this affiliate revenue from listeners and fans buying Harry Potter products. They thought it was the end of their Leaky whatever because we released Muggle Shop. And I'm pretty sure I remember a certain someone being tearful about it at Leaky.
Oh my God.
That we beat them or we're about to cannibalize their business, or so they thought. So yeah, just getting worked up about like we were always competing. News, products, if you will, the podcasts. It was ridiculous in hindsight.
The kind of weird thing about the dynamic too is that I never considered myself friends with any of the Leaky people. I was not close to them like that. And I honestly didn't want to be because of this dynamic. But there were quite a few friendships between the MuggleNet and the Leaky crew. And I think because, and it's just something that kind of comes with the territory of working on a homegrown project in the same sphere as the same people for a long time. The dynamic can get really direct and you can be the best of friends. But when it comes down to business and like my site versus your site, we all knew what the priority was for each person, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of an interesting foray into that adult world as well.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up too, that dynamic of like, oh, we're usually friends, but right now we're fighting. So are we friends?
Yeah.
And we would always kiss and make up. And I'll also add, and this will tie into a question about LeakyCon that we'll answer in a little bit. I'm good with the Leaky people now. Like, I consider amongst the Leaky people, like, I would consider myself closest to John. Like, we've always had a good friendship and we don't talk often, but when we do, it's always great. And I have every confidence in saying, like, we love each other to death. We're good friends and we always will be. So, yeah, I don't have any lingering beef, but it is wild to look back on how tense things got.
Yeah.
In those days.
Wild too, because you all were collaborating a lot. So I can't imagine what that must have been like to be like, well, now I have to put on my poker face and pretend like everything's okay so that we can like present this united front. Like that I'm too petty, honestly. I don't know if I would have been able to deal, especially at a younger age. So props to you all for never making it seem like there was anything going on behind the scenes that was unsavory.
Well, I can't speak for myself.
Well, you and I are cut from the same cloth, though.
Right.
So.
No, because I was definitely petty. And to be completely fair now, I don't, like, if I ran into any of the Leaky people, I don't really expect to. I'm sure at some point there will be some big Harry Potter thing and we will. It'll be fine. Like, I don't.
Right.
Yeah. You just say hi, be nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Close,
like, I
put
don't.
your enemies closer, whatever it is. Like,
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, it's not something that I think I spend a lot of time thinking about anymore. But remembering that time, and I just remember like feeling that visceral teenage outrage over the whole dynamic and being like, our shit's just more popular than yours. Get over it.
That's why they were always crying.
Yeah, I think so. But it also illustrates, like, on both sides, just how...
Oh, it was so petty and immature.
No, but just how all in we were on this. Like, the websites were our world on both sides. And for many other people who were running Harry Potter fan sites, those were our world. I mean, that's what I was thinking about outside of school all day, every day. Even in school, I mean, I had my laptop and I was covering news on MuggleNet. Like, I was totally consumed with that site.
Yeah. Well, did you want to talk about Madeline's question with LeakyCon and why you and I don't go?
Sure. Yeah, so Madeline said, what's the tea with LeakyCon and why Andrew and Laura don't go? So this is a very astute observation, I think. You may have noticed over the years that Micah and Eric have been going to LeakyCons in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years. but I haven't, and neither has Laura. So here's what I'll say about this. And this is the truth from me. I'm not withholding anything here. I'm at a point where I no longer am interested in going to Harry Potter conferences. That's basically it. Leaky is very kind to us in terms of offering travel, lodging, allowing us to do a panel at the show, at the conference. And we're very grateful for that. I personally am just not interested in going. As an example, this year, it's over 4th of July weekend in Portland. I don't want to spend my 4th of July weekend in a stuffy hotel room at a Harry Potter conference. I want to be at the beach. I want to be at a national park or something. I want to be in vacation mode. Further, I don't see many benefits for MuggleCast being there. Like, yes, for our listeners, it's a cool experience, but we could host a meetup or live podcast anywhere. I don't believe we're growing the show by attending LeakyCon. Some of us are going to try to get together to attend a podcast conference in DC this summer. That's an opportunity for us to network with other podcasters, learn how to grow both podcasts, learn how to grow in the podcast industry. I see benefits for myself there. I don't see benefits by going to LeakyCon. That's my stance. Where are you, Laura?
Honestly, it's really similar. I'm just not super interested in it. I feel like my days of living large at Harry Potter cons are behind me, and they're days that I look back on very fondly. But for me to go to another one, there would have to be a really big event, a really big reason for me to want to go. When I'm thinking about conferences I want to go to now, it is stuff like Podcast Movement that feels like things that we can be doing to get together and see each other, do a meetup with our listeners if possible, and do something to grow the shows. So that's really more of where my interest is. The only thing that was ever annoying about the LeakyCon stuff was the amount of times that Micah and Eric kept like low key trying to peer pressure us into going.
Mm-hmm.
Because neither of us was interested. And we were like, it's like, we don't hate anybody. We just don't want to go.
Yeah.
And it's something that came up multiple times until we finally had to be like, stop it. You just don't want to.
A couple of years ago, we said basically point blank, like, we are not interested and will not be interested. Now, if it happened to happen in Vegas, or I was back home in New Jersey and it was happening in Philly or something, like, yes, I would definitely go, no question, but I'm not going to travel for it. I think listeners know, I take pretty limited time off too. I don't want to spend my time off at a Harry Potter conference. I want to be spending it on vacation. There's a bunch of different reasons. None of it's malice. Like, I have no issue with LeakyCon and all that. And I know people that when people go, they have a great time, and I'm happy for y'all. But another angle, and I think we're kind of circling around this, is that we've been to a lot of Harry Potter conferences at this point. Yeah. It was a chapter of our lives. It was fun. We have tons of great memories that we share. But that's it now for us.
And what about, do we have time for this question from Monica and then we wrap?
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool. So Monica asks, are you at a point where you feel like the amount of money you bring in from Patreon contributes adequately to the amount of time and effort you put into the podcast? Or do you feel it still needs to grow to get to that point?
I love this question because we never really talk about like the success of the Patreon or like how the Patreon is doing. So we launched the Patreon pretty early, well, with Millennial, I think, right?
Yeah.
And we couldn't do the show without Patreon support. That is how we've primarily funded the show since its inception in 2015. The way you phrased the question too is interesting. Are you at a point where you feel like the amount of money you bring in from Patreon contributes adequately to the amount of time and effort you put into the podcast? I'll answer that this way. The Patreon has not grown in recent years. We peaked early in the pandemic. I think a lot of more people started listening to podcasts. A lot of people got tied to the podcast that they love most. They wanted to support indie podcasters. It has dropped off since then. It's still doing well. Is it at our dream position? No. I kind of doubt we'll grow the Patreon further than where it is right now. That's just me looking at where the audience is, the age of the show. It's the reason why we do it, but we would love to see it grow more. Yes. And also, please, nobody cancel. We love your support.
I mean, I would love to be able to podcast full time or even content create full time, do something in like the sphere of what we're doing now full time, or hell, even part time. And I could go get some shitty part time job somewhere else just to have healthcare. I would love to be able to do that. It's not quite there yet, but I think it could get there. I don't know if it gets there with this show, but I think there are other opportunities.
I agree with both of you. I think that like, because this is also a passion project for all of us too, we all probably put in more hours than we get paid to put in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if you're really breaking it down by like an hourly wage or an hourly rate and being really technical about how much like we would be charging a larger company, for example, based on the amount of years that we've been doing this and how many skills we bring to the table individually and together, like obviously we're underpaid, but that's not really how we're computing it here, right? So I will just say that I'm very grateful that people support us on the Patreon and we all get a cut of that, and we're able to do things like upgrade equipment when we need to. But there's always room for more. We're never going to be like, please don't, nobody else subscribe, you know?
Yeah. And that's part of the struggle with being a content creator. Like there's always more you could do. There's always a larger audience that you could find. It really is never ending. One way I like to look at not just this show and not just this Patreon, but like everything that I do holistically is that, yes, I see some of my friends earning more than me annually, and I get a little bummed out. But then I always keep in mind that even though I'm not earning as much as them financially, I am earning more in terms of my quality of life. I get to work from home full time. I get to choose my clients. I get to take a break in the middle of the day for lunch and working out. If I start work early enough in the day, I could potentially end earlier in the day. I can drop a client and replace them if I want to. I don't have an asshole boss other than occasionally running into some rifts with clients I work with. I can work from anywhere in the world, basically, for as long as I want, and nobody can tell me I can't do that. So I have a lot of flexibility, and that is worth a lot more to me than earning more. That said, I do strive to earn more every year because I do need to be making progress on that front, especially with inflation.
Yeah. I see it as putting in like sweat equity.
Yes.
And we can say this too, to like anytime we launch a new feature, for example, obviously like it's not tied to any incentive if it goes towards the Patreon, but we're happy to spend, you know, an hour or two here and there working on it, workshopping it until we know that it's ready for all of you to enjoy. And that would be like, that's what I consider like my free log hours, for example.
Yeah.
Or I would consider it that way. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. But I think, you know, everyone has to remember that there was a long time when we were doing this work
for free.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're making anything off of it at all is like a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And maybe it goes without saying, but like speaking for myself and for you two too, but like I set my own reliable schedule. I'm not like, oh, you know what? On Wednesday, I'm going to sleep in till 10 a.m. because I don't have a boss. Fuck it. I'm at this computer before 7 a.m. every day. I abide by a pretty strict work schedule because I like it that way. I like having consistency in my day. And I feel like I enjoy feeling like I'm accomplishing something every day. And part of being successful as a creator is having that structure in your life and having to convince yourself that you are being productive. And that can come from like just having a reliable schedule every day.
Good tips for work from home too. I know so many people that think that they're good at working from home, and I just know that they're not because I see them fucking around online or texting me at random hours. That, you know, I try not to do that.
Yeah.
if I'm on a deadline or something, but I'm with you. I set, realistic hours. I make sure I schedule breaks. I make sure that I put in like a lunch hour for myself or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I know I need to focus, I'm focusing from, whatever to whatever hours.
And I give myself a workout break in the middle of the day because that's when I feel like it's most effective. It'll carry me through the rest of the day. I can only do that because I work for myself, because I don't work for corporate America. And I'm also the type of person who would never be able to work from bed in the morning. Like if I was working in bed in the morning, I would feel like I'm not actually working. I need to be sitting at a computer.
I used to do that and I stopped, and stopping was the best thing I ever did for myself.
Really? Is it because you felt more energized?
On.
Were you more productive?
Yes, 100%. That was like right when I first started working from home, because I was working East Coast hours and it was just easier. But it was just so hard to separate work from my bed where
Yes.
I try and relax and go to sleep. So for that alone, it was worth it to kick the habit, but it was pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, early on into the pandemic, when I switched to working from home, because I am in that corporate America space, I had a really bad habit of just working from like the cozy couch all day. And that very quickly turned out to not be the best working arrangement. If I really want to focus and get stuff done, I need to be at my desk.
Yeah.
I just need to be at my desk. And I can give myself a little treat and go out on the patio to maybe do some heads down work and get some sunshine. But if I'm like in a meeting or if I'm doing something that requires a lot of focus, I got to be here.
Yeah.
So
I've been going to the library too
I
to work
used to
during the
do
day.
that.
I'm going to send you guys a picture of my favorite seat at the library later. It's a dream.
I need to do that again.
But it's free. It's free because you're not tempted to buy anything. I love working from a coffee shop too, but the library is it's a different level.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, being at the desk helps me convince myself I am on the right track in life. Like if I was just working from bed all day, I would feel like I'm just a giant fake who isn't actually doing anything. I know, it's the imposter syndrome.
I mean, honestly, I admire both of you because honestly, I aspire to get to a point where I'm doing what you both do. And I recognize that freelancing is not easy. But you both do it really, really well.
Thanks.
So I'm definitely watching both of you and trying to learn from
Come
you
to the dark side.
yeah, because I mean, I'm not saying it's happening tomorrow or even next year, but it is a place I would like to find myself because I do want to be able to work for myself. I'm tired of working for other people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. It's constantly scary. It's taken a long time, to your point, of like, how many years we were doing this for free to finally get to this point. But yeah, this makes me think maybe we should do like a freelancing themed AMA one time.
Yeah.
Like
that's a great
Pop
idea.
it in the
I
server.
did.
Yep.
I just did actually. Yeah. I know we got some other questions. We can get to them in the future too. At least some of them, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you to everybody who submitted. These were really good questions. When I was getting the push notifications coming in, I was like, damn.
We got so many good ones.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Y'all came through.
Similar to how we depend on your financial support, we really depend on your content support, your contributions to the actual show, because y'all ask some really good questions and give us some really good answers when we ask for questions. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you next time.
Bye,
Bye,
y'all.
everyone.
Have a good night.